Hi, welcome back. On again, my second broadcast of the day. Thought I'd bring you up to speed on this cabinet. It's being sold by the mainstream media as a huge departure. All new, brand new, but is it really? When we come back.
The Prime Minister lied and his minions continue to lie.
We need political change. But we also need to resolve to resist. Yes, please like the station. I really appreciate it when you do that. And subscribe. We're moving upward. Thank you again for the support you showed on the weekend. It was a hard weekend, but we're through it with God's help. And this Carney cabinet, it's really incredible. I'm going to show you not the people reciting their oaths, but Carney's remarks afterwards. And of course, the mainstream media is selling this cabinet as a brand new whole departure from the Trudeau years. So he's put some fresh faces in there. A lot of rookie MPs who may not be qualified for the job. But if you look at the people who are still there, Dominic LeBlanc is his special liaison with the United States. Chrystia Freeland stayed in transport. And of course, Melanie Jolie. These were all the confidants of Justin Trudeau until Justin Trudeau, of course, turfed Chrystia Freeland. So I think there's a bit of the Godfather working there. And I think that's probably the only reason Freeland wasn't turfed along with Wilkinson. And Stephen Guilbeault is in there as the protector of Canadian identity. How ludicrous is that? Well, let's listen to some of the, and one of the questions is particularly interesting.
Canadians elected this new government with a strong mandate to define a new economic and security relationship.
He didn't get a majority government. He's trying slowly but surely to get there. And there's some questions later about, is he poaching or trying to poach NDP MPs? And he doesn't answer it. But apparently he is. And Mark Carney and the Liberals are going over every vote. And what the Conservatives insist upon openness and transparency, the CBC is saying they're daring to question the legitimacy of the election. No. Saw a message up today from the CPC headquarters, and they're clearly frustrated because they're not allowed to ask any questions. They're not allowed to validate the process. That's somehow election questioning. And this is how this goes. Liberals are allowed to, conservatives are not. But here's the clown show behind Mark Carney here. He did not win a strong mandate.
Relationship with the United States and to build a stronger economy for all Canadians. Canadians also sent a clear message that their cost of living must come down and that our communities must be safe.
Here he goes again. This is exactly what Pierre Poilievre said throughout the entire election. And you remember what I said the other day. Mark Carney mouths conservative buzzwords, but he doesn't have conservative solutions. Affordability. What's his idea for affordability? Soviet-style block housing. We're going to be shoving people into these apartment buildings. And affordability? Well, that can mean anything Mark Carney wants it to be. As I said, communists believe in affordability. Carney is not going to be taking taxes. The middle class tax plan he has, he claims it's going to save a two-family home It's going to save a couple $805 a year. We'll see.
The swearing in of this cabinet is amongst the fastest following an election, and the beginning of the new parliament will be one of the most rapid following an election in Canadian history.
We haven't had a parliament since December. January. So I think you could have got it back a little more rapidly, because we're still looking, it's 2 weeks away. A throne speech is 2 weeks away.
We are starting as we aim to go on. Our government will deliver its mandate for change with urgency and determination. We're come down.
There's that change.
And that our communities must be safe. History. We are starting as we aim to go on. Our government will deliver its mandate for change with urgency and determination. We're going to deliver that mandate with a new team, purpose-built for this hinge moment in Canada's history.
Hinge moment. What's hinge about it? You were pretending there was an existential threat in Donald Trump, just like you think there's an existential threat from climate change, and that evaporated a week ago when you visited with Donald Trump. Suddenly, the threat was over.
This cabinet is smaller and more focused than those of previous governments.
He's got 28 cabinet ministers, and he's got 10 secretaries of state. So, is it really smaller? No.
It will operate with a commitment to true cabinet government, with everyone expected and empowered to show leadership, to bring new ideas, to have a clear focus, and to take decisive actions to accomplish their work. In a return to more traditional cabinet government, our cabinet will be supported by 10 secretaries of state who will lead on key priorities within their ministers' portfolios. Nous allons gouverner en tant qu'équipe, autant au sein du Conseil des ministres que du caucus, et travailler de façon constructive avec l'ensemble des partis au Parlement. The decisions made by this new Parliament, which starts on the 26th of May, will be critical to Canada's future. Our new government's core priorities will be outlined on the 27th of May by His Majesty King Charles III in the speech from the throne. My government will also take immediate action, with immediate legislation out of 13. In everything, we will be guided by our conviction that our economy is only strong when it serves everyone. That means bringing down costs for all Canadians. It means making life more affordable and helping everyone to get ahead.
Helping everyone to get ahead. That is not a free enterprise solution. If Carney thinks he's going to help everybody get ahead, well, that's just a form of socialism.
To those end, my last government's first act was to cancel the consumer carbon tax.
It was not canceled. The price was reduced. It's still on the books because Parliament hasn't been back to cancel the carbon tax. There has to be a legislative decision made on that. And of course, nobody's been sitting in the House of Commons since January.
In this new Parliament, our new government will put more money in Canadians' pockets with a middle-class tax cut that will take effect by Canada Day, saving two-income families up to $825 a year.
You know, that's a pittance. That is a pittance. So he's pretending to be a big tax cutter. And of course he's not.
We will also cut the GST on homes under $1 million for first-time home buyers and lower the GST on homes between $1 million and $1.5 million, helping to promote the goal of affordable home ownership. But that goal can only truly be achieved by doubling the rate of home building in this country.
Here we get into it. He also forgot to mention the home equity tax. Well, he's gonna launch that one. before long.
So we will build homes faster at lower costs with a smaller environmental footprint in construction and greater efficiency once families move in. And in that process, we will create an entirely new Canadian housing industry in modular and prefab housing using Canadian technology, Canadian skilled workers, and Canadian lumber.
And Soviet-style housing.
My government will work relentlessly to keep Canada secure as a sovereign nation and to keep Canadians safe in their communities. We will build a stronger Canadian Armed Forces to defend every inch of our territory through unprecedented investment.
You know, that's the reason we've always become members of collective security organizations, because Canada can't defend every inch of this country. It's too big for the population we have. And we would require an enormous military to actually guard every inch of Canada.
In land, air, sea, and cyberspace. We will strengthen Canadian law enforcement and border security, including with 1,000 new RCMP personnel and 1,000 new border security officers. And we will toughen the criminal code for those threatening the safety of Canadians, including making bail harder to get for those charged with stealing cars, with home invasion, or with human trafficking. Nous allons bâtir la...
With Global News, interim NDP leader Don Davies told Global News that your government was reaching out and calling NDP individuals about trying to poach them to join your party. Are you trying to poach NDP MPs to join the Liberals?
Look, we... As I said a moment ago, we have a clear mandate. We'll work towards that clear mandate. We're always interested in working with parliamentarians from any of the opposition parties to support that mandate. Obviously, those discussions will intensify as Parliament returns in the course of the next, well, it's less than 2 weeks. So clear mandate, focus on those. Speech from the throne will be quite clear in terms of our priorities. We'll work with Parliament.
I think that's a yes. He is trying to poach NDP members. All he needs is two. If that election in Quebec stands, the one where where the Liberals won by one vote, and now they've found another vote for the BQ in that constituency. So that could totally upset his plans. But do you think there's 3 or 4 NDP members who would cross the floor to the Liberals? Yeah, I think so. Because their party is effectively on life support. So I think it's entirely possible he could attract some NDP members and get that majority government. And that is going to be a recipe for hell in this country. And I find it very, very, very concerning. That's a real possibility. This has been a disastrous election. Now, I found some more material from that Alberta Prosperity Project meeting last night in Calgary. And so I wanted to share that with you. Now that, of course, is the proposed question in the municipal elections. Do you agree the province of Alberta shall become a sovereign country and cease to be a province of Canada?
In order to solve the imbalance in power.
So this was a huge success. Had about 1,200 people there.
I am very proud to announce that we have an official referendum question for the referendum petition campaign that we would like to introduce today. So gentlemen, if you could excuse me for a minute, and I'll try to do this without pulling down the signboard. That is the question that will be on the ballot for the Alberta referendum. It states quite simply, do you agree that the province of Alberta shall become a sovereign country and cease to be a province of Canada, yes or no?
that the great trade of the prairies shall go as
No,
in order
once
to
again.
solve the
Sorry about that, folks. Once
that the
again,
great trade of the prairies shall go.
I'm just presenting this to you. I'm not taking a position on this because I think it's up to the people of Alberta to make that decision. But I will say again, I think they're being pushed into a corner and that this is an option because there are a few other options on the table.
To enrich our people in the East, to build up our factories and our places of work, and in every legitimate way contribute to our prosperity. Now, where do you see Alberta and Saskatchewan fit into that? You don't. So we started off as a colony to serve the interests of the East, and nothing has changed. We continue to be a colony, to be pillaged, plundered, and to have values thrust down our...
Be aware of how hard this fight is going to be. This is going to be the fight of our lives. I honestly think that we're not going to have another chance to do it either. So please be aware, we're all in. This is supposed to be nonpartisan, and everybody understand that we need the party in power to actually get us this referendum and to put it into effect. Now, I don't know who the party in power is in Alberta right now, but if I was nonpartisan, I'd be buying memberships for that party to absolutely make sure that they do what they say they're going to do.
First of all, in support of the referendum.
Now, this guy is saying that the federal government might make it impossible to have another referendum. And I think that's entirely possible with this Carney government, because clearly this would upset Carney's plans to keep Alberta under the thumb, under the boot of the Liberal Party and the new Carney government. And here's Jeffrey Rath again. Of course, he's been on my show twice, and he'll be back again to discuss this. I think this is a seismic change in this country, and as a result of elections constantly being decided by Ontario and Quebec. Even though Quebec never has any more seats, they have 75 seats, and their population continues to decline, but they still have 75 seats. And of course, provinces like PEI are grossly overrepresented. And even though the population has increased in British Columbia and Alberta, it still isn't having the desired effect on these elections.
Petition, and I guess as you've heard from Dr. Modry today, as of today, and the latest number that I got from our good friend and colleague and CEO Mitch Sylvester, 240,000 people have pledged their support for an independence referendum in Alberta, which we hope to have happen this year. Now, to be clear, there's a lot of discussion around that. Some people say, oh, well, maybe we should wait until next year, whatever it is. Keep in mind, I'm a litigator. I like setting aggressive trial dates. I want to have all the planning in place. We want to be ready to go. And, in my view, there's no reason that, we can't have every Albertan organized and ready for a referendum in November of 2025.
And of course, he's a lawyer who often represents the claims of First Nations. So the largest opposition in Alberta to this has been from a few First Nation tribes. But they don't really represent the bulk of the Indigenous population in Alberta, most of whom see an opportunity for them. So there's really not that much opposition from Aboriginal folks in Alberta.
We're currently at 240,000 pledges. By the end of May, we want to be over 400,000 pledges. Leaving the bars, casinos, and strip clubs open, so our 18-year-old, sons and daughters couldn't go to high school, but they could go to the bars, the casinos, and the strip clubs. I mean, this was the idiocy of Jason Kenney in government, right? And why was he that foolish, and why was he enacting all of these harmful policies that were dictated to him by Justin Trudeau? Why was Jason Kenney, even though he was elected as a Conservative, governing like a Trudeau Liberal? Because he has federal aspirations to run for federal office. Right? So you can't get elected as the Prime Minister of Canada, unless you can pander to the people in Ontario who think, that freedom is a bad word, everybody should be locked in their homes when the government...
I think Jason Kenney is a spent force politically.
I am very proud because he has federal aspirations to run for federal office. Right? So you can't get elected as the Prime Minister of Canada, unless you can pander to the people in Ontario who think, that freedom is a bad word, everybody should be locked in their homes when the government decides to lock us in our homes, we should be treated like children on a regular basis, etc., etc. Kenney knows that to get elected in Eastern Canada, you've got to be able to telegraph that form of mentality to people because they like to be treated like children, and that's what they expect from their leaders, right? So that's why we suffer what we're suffering. Look at Pierre Poilievre. He was running a national campaign, not as a Conservative, but as a Trudeau Liberal. He would not say that he was opposed to Alberta transfer payments going to Ontario, Quebec, and the Maritimes. Claims to be from Alberta.
He's being a little hard on Pierre Poilievre here. He was running a Conservative campaign. Maybe not a perfect Conservative campaign. Maybe not everything we wanted. But there was a difference between Carney and Poilievre in this election. But I agree. There's certain issues that Poilievre doesn't want to touch. And I think he probably should have touched those issues in the campaign. But water under the bridge now.
Right? And here he is now because, of course, he couldn't get reelected in Ottawa, which is really where he belongs. He's now coming to run in Battle River Crowfoot. And he's still, I double dog dare him. Pierre, I have a slogan for you. The slogan is, no more Alberta tax dollars for Quebec, and a dairy cow and micro dairy in every Alberta barn that wants one. From the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much. I guess some of you have heard that since Mark Carney was elected 2.5 weeks ago, we've now had over 15,000 new volunteers come forward pledging to join. I'd like everybody to think about that for a minute, because that's actually more volunteers than we have infantry in the entire Canadian Army. So, we're all very busy helping everybody get on board, helping to get people organized.
Could well be that we are now finally at a point where Canadians have had enough. That's what I'm seeing among the premiers. The premiers, doesn't matter how large their province or how small, what their endowment of natural resources are, whether they're socialist or independent or liberal or conservative. Every one of us have projects that we want to develop to generate revenue, to create jobs, and to be able to find new markets. And so it could be that he's become Prime Minister at a time in our history where Canadians have made a collective decision to go in a different direction. And if he's pragmatic and smart, he will follow along with that direction. But he has a very short window here, and I've told him that. I said, we've been told a lot of things for 2.5 years from the previous government. We tried to find some common ground to move forward, and they would not budge. In fact, every time we pushed, it's like they doubled down and did something worse. And so I think he's got a narrow window here through the Budget Implementation Act, as well as through his first legislative session, to show he's moving in a different direction. And next year, when I come back for round number 4, I guess we'll have an answer to that.
So my answer to you is, how much does he have to give us, and how long of a window does he actually have?
I think 6 months. I think that's the most, really. Like, it's...
6 months, maybe less. The country is changing rapidly before our eyes. Didn't show you my store ad earlier. I'm going to show that to you now. I'll be back with some concluding remarks. Yes, please buy something. It's good material. Anyway, we got some exciting shows planned for the rest of the week. Hoping to have Kyle Kemper on Friday to talk about Bitcoin, and he's an expert on this. And he's actually requested that he come on the show and talk about that. So I think we can do that Friday. And I'm reaching out to other broadcasters to cooperate. I think it's very important we do that. So that's about all for today. We didn't get very high numbers. Never do in my afternoon shows, but I'm going to keep on trying. Thanks for watching. This has been David Krayden live from Ottawa, and I will be back again tomorrow at 10 o'clock with more of the news you need to know. Let's continue to resolve to resist. Godspeed to all of you.